So I think we're set. Welcome to Unscripted Turbulence with Raegan and Medgie. Does it look a little different if you're watching behind me? It should. Welcome to the podcast Nook. We are in my bedroom. As you know, Pilot and I have different quarters because of our sleep patterns. So this is a little inside, intimate look into my world. This is what I look at every morning when I wake up and then when I go to bed. It's my bookshelf, my bookcase, bookshelf. And yes, I am one of those obnoxious journalists who have my Emmy in the back. However, on the Emmy is I'm terrible at these Hawaiian pronunciations. I'm not the worst, but Haleakala National Park. This was purchased the day of our 14th wedding anniversary, which happened on September 17th. We went up to the top of this mountain, and it was a volcano. Yeah, old volcano, no longer active. And we saw the sunrise over the clouds, to which I told Pilot, don't you kind of see this when you work all the time? And he was like, yeah, but it was still special. So yes, I am back from Hawaii, and it was awesome. You know, when I go on vacation, I like to digitally detox. So that is why I did not post anything, because I just feel like that loses the purpose of why you're away. This is for me. I have friends who post when they're away, and I like that because then I feel like I'm on vacation with them. So I am kind of down to the wire with this podcast episode because I am filming it Tuesday before the date releases, which I never do. I like to have them kind of ahead of schedule, and they are. But the reason I wanted to film this when I'm filming it is because, one, Pilot is flying. He's finally back to work. Finally. I mean, he's back to work. And it took us a week to recover. I'll get into all that. So I have quiet on the set. I know it sounds ridiculous, but even though I was in TV for 20 years, it is sometimes I just don't want anybody listening to me while I'm doing this, specifically Pilot. And I know many of you listen to this in the morning, so it is 10:37 in the morning on a Tuesday, the day before I release this thing, and I'm drinking coffee, Hawaiian coffee from Kanapali in Maui. I'm not going to be speaking Hawaiian the whole time, but see, brewed with aloha is what the mug says. If you're watching, if you're listening, I'll explain what you're seeing. But I'm going to sip right now because I feel like if you're commuting, you're likely sipping coffee. So let's sip together. But then again, if you're in the evening and you're sipping a teeny, go for it. There's something about that sip. One of the the first couple of sips in the morning. Okay, so I even have with me my notebook. And I got wires all over too. So if I hit this is my headset kind of thing going into the computer. But so I have a list of things I kind of want to touch base on because, I don't want to lose my train of thought. So yes, so into the podcast Nook, it is, I wanted to bring all of you in. I'm not always going to have guests. And I kind of went back and forth with the idea, should I have a guest all the time or not? My first 3 episodes, what I like to call my TV trilogy, seemed to really resonate with a lot of people, and y'all like just hearing me, right? So I thought, why don't I give this a shot? So in order to be more comfortable doing solo episodes, I wanted to do them in the comfort of my space. Now, this chair I'm sitting on is the chair I would journal in every morning. And I am getting back to that. Hawaii obviously kind of shifted a lot in terms of, I wasn't in here to journal. But so there's a lot of significance as to why I'm here in this corner. This is where I would journal. There's a lot of energy and woo-woo. And I've got all of my books. I'm like looking at myself and looking at you at the same time, and choking myself out with this freaking cord. But I've got all the books behind me. We'll refer to. Are you ready? Jen Sincero, I'm coming after you in terms of asking you to be on my podcast. You are a badass every day. So we will read something out of this by the end of this episode. I'm hoping to make this only a half an hour because a lot of you commute on your way in. So honestly, you can kind of consider this like a phone call to you, right? So I'm going to kind of go over what's been going on, the Hawaiian thing. So before we went for Hawaii, I was super determined, and I did. I nailed my personal deadline. I am so freaking excited because in TV, there are things that we call HFR, meaning hold for release. So what we do as TV people is we'll go out, if we have like a special project we want to cover, we'll go out and cover it and we'll hold it for release, which, it could take days, weeks, months, but we have it in the can. We edit it and everything. Our editors edit it, so it's in line. So I already have 2 other episodes after this one already all queued up. But I really wanted to get everything kind of ahead of schedule, and I did before Hawaii. So Hawaii is not cheap. We'll start with that. And, money's a little tight around here because Medgie over here is not bringing in anything right now, which is fine. So we have to budget accordingly. And when we decided to go to Hawaii, it was a big discussion between Pilot and I. And this was a discussion that started fall of last year. At that point, I was employed. And, fast forward, I leave and it comes up. Now, Pilot loves him some World War II. And he's gotten me on that train too. It really, when you start really diving in, if you're not, we're all familiar with World War II, but if you don't really dive into it deep, wow, you are missing out on a lot. So he wanted to go to Pearl Harbor. He's also a Navy veteran. Go Navy. And go Army for my dad. But so he really wanted to go to Oahu. On the island of Oahu, there is Pearl Harbor. Now, I just learned all of this. I knew Pearl Harbor was there. I just didn't understand all the islands. So we always like to go on a trip for our anniversary every year. And he had mentioned last fall, and then it got brought up again after I left WABC. And we went back and forth. Should we do it? It's expensive. I don't know. And I said, you know what? Screw it. We're going. And this is why. I understand we don't have money coming in. I get that. Well, I don't. One can argue and have a lot coming in when I had it coming in. But anyway. So I said, I know we don't have a lot of money to play with, but this is something that we can do. And this is something that we can do without the newsroom hanging over me. And for those who are not in news, in order to have off and to get off for a vacation or whatever, sometimes you have to beg, borrow, and steal. And it is not easy. It's never easy to take off. If you're up in rank, sure, you've been there for decades, you have a bit more say because, you kind of put your time in. But that was not my situation. So I never had an opportunity where I could go on a vacation and just have a completely clear mind, because every time you'd come back from vacation, it was like you were punished sometimes. Oh, now you're doing doubles. Oh, now you gotta do turnarounds and this and that because, other people are in line to take vacation, which is understood. That's the lay of the land. But you just knew towards the end of vacation, you had a couple of days where you start dreading oh, here we go. Oh, I just know what I'm coming back to. I didn't have it this time. So I told Pilot, I said, never in the history of ever have we been able to, specifically me, go on a vacation, not have that hanging over my head. And I said, and third, my gosh, we could go however long we want. Like, we literally could have gone however long we wanted. The way his company works. Listen, if you're thinking of becoming a pilot, do it. Their schedules, it is a stressful job, but wow, they can really finagle their schedules. So we said, hey, why not? Let's do it. He did show me the cost 2 days ago. Not as bad as I thought it was, but Hawaii is expensive. So that's, so we decided we were going to go. So then that put in motion getting this podcast up and running. And then while up and running, record, plan guests, schedule guests. And the next 2 upcoming guests, so great. They're all so great. And then the guests after that I have lined up. So then it became a thing of like, all right, we have a studio I go to with my guests, and then I want to have a studio in my comfort of my own room. Now, this saves money because I rent a space that costs me money every time, which money, whatever it happens. But if this is something I want to do. This is a passion project. So if you're going to do it, do it, So there's that. So this saves me money. And then again, I don't have anybody listening to me. I don't have an engineer listening. Now, hopefully all of this takes first take because that would be horrible. But anyway, I just have to re-record. But this is the first take, and this is what we're going to do. So yeah, that's how this kind of all unfolded. I'm a little nervous for this episode because my intention is go from start to stop and not edit anything out in the middle, because that's what I'd like to eventually get into. I have edited certain pieces out because, you go on a left-hand turn and whatever. But okay, so now we are into Hawaii, and we go to Hawaii. We left on, the 9th or 10th of September? Got back on the 22nd. So I like to say that I left in the summer and I returned in the fall. Hawaii was breathtaking. We went to Oahu, where Pearl Harbor is. We went on the Pearl Harbor tour, which is so heavy. And mind you, side note, we've also been to Normandy. So Normandy, if you ever have a chance to go, you really have to. The world would be a much different place if America did not do what they did. The soldiers. Oh my. So yeah. So Pearl Harbor was heavy, and just knowing about the souls that are, remains. I don't even know if there are any remains left, really, after how many years, in the USS Arizona, which is the battleship. I might be messing this up, and Pilot's going to listen to this, and he is going to be so offended. Sunk. Oh, gee. I mean, the stuff you learn. And initially, when we were going to go, I asked my dad to go, but he just couldn't. He couldn't make it work because he also wants to see Pearl Harbor because he's a real big war buff too. So, but yeah, so that was heavy. So we did that. I think the second day we were there. And it was, wow. So after we got done with that, we spent like 2 more days on Oahu, which, by the way, not a fan of Waikiki. I thought I would be. It was too busy. I thought you go to Hawaii and it was just really mellow and low key. Now, some of you listening have gone to Hawaii, so you know what I'm talking about. You have to go to Pearl Harbor, but wow, it was very chaotic, and I wasn't expecting that. It was almost like New York City, but with palm trees and a beach. It was a lot. It was nice, but the area we stayed in, it was very built up, and but there was a great farmers market we went to. That was awesome. Then we went from Oahu to Maui. It was between Maui and Kauai, and Kauai is another really chill island, chiller than Maui. Maui is just, that was really just the landscape. And I did not realize that while we were driving through Maui, we had to drive through Lahaina, where the wildfires were. And they're still rebuilding. And that was just sad. So, of course, I go on some kind of chat GPT journey, and I'm learning about all of the islands and all of the uniqueness of each island. And Hawaii's a dangerous place, and not people danger, nature danger. That ocean, and now I like to say, well, once a lifeguard, always a lifeguard. I know how to swim. I know my way around water. You could feel the danger. I went in, but the one thing about Hawaii I was very disappointed in, and I may have some people say I didn't do it right, the food. Oh, so I don't eat meat. So that already takes me out of a couple of dishes, which I have been able to survive without meat forever. Well, since I gave it up in sophomore year of high school, which was 1996. Yeah. Was it? 97. Anyway. So I can maneuver, I can navigate around it. I expected to go there and it would be fish out the wazoo. Did you know that 90%, and I checked this morning just to make sure I was right, 85 to 90% of all the food Hawaiians consume is imported? Yeah, I'm shocked too. They basically live on a greenhouse, right? You would think that they could grow everything. Of course, it's a very complex turn of events and everything over there. But it's fascinating to me. But the food they have this thing called poke, which I've seen and I've had before. Just raw fish on rice and other things. It was good. Pilot, not a fan. Yeah, some of the food just wasn't what I thought it would be. But the coffee, speaking of coffee break, coffee talk. It's like we're having a little coffee talk right now. Yeah. So the coffee is great. Now, Pilot doesn't do the caffeinated thing. So I can't tell you how many times we went to a coffee shop and we asked for decaf and nope. Poor thing. I mean, he found a workaround, but yeah. So I was surprised by the food. Met a few Hawaiian people. One singer guy that was at our hotel that was strumming his guitar. So freaking just grateful. Just so happy. And that's my Hawaiian people experience. So happy. So nice and warm. And if you decide to go to Hawaii, and while we were exploring, there is an online app. I sound like I'm 50. I shouldn't say 50 because I sound like I'm 80, like I don't understand the internet. It's called the Shaka Guide, SHAKA Guide. And you do the Shaka. And you download it, you buy it, whatever one you want. So we did one for Oahu, driving up to the North Shore, and another one for the road to Hana, which is in Maui. And the road to Hana is very windy. At one point, I got a little car sick, but you make several stops. I didn't throw up or anything. Not that you need to know that, but I just got a little queasy. So you make several stops and, you can snorkel, you can swim in waterfalls. A little dry there right now, not big waterfalls. Pilot not happy, but you hike, a lot of hiking. We did a lot of hiking. For as much as I rag on Pilot, his intention for this trip was to sit on a beach every now and again and relax, because typically we are very active when we are traveling and on trips. And when I say active, I mean like we are in the car driving, get out, hike, swim, whatever. Like surprisingly enough, because I like to consider him kind of a bubble boy, doesn't like the outdoors, the heat, the bugs. I can roll around in mud and be happy. As one would say, happier than a pig in shit. He does not like that. But this trip, he's going to listen to this. Very surprised, Pilot. Very surprised. I mean, for as much moving and shaking that you wanted to do. Because I really thought we were just going to relax. I'm okay with it though. So we hiked up this one mountain, Walalea, probably butchered that one, in Maui. And it was, what was it, like 1,900 feet up or more? It's a lot, but it was beautiful. But yeah, so a lot of mover, shaker action going on. But the Shaka guide, if you were to go, and the Shaka guide has expanded, created in, I think, 2019? Before the pandemic. There's before and after, before the pandemic. And it was a guy in Hawaii who wanted to give people the experience of Hawaii, and through a driving tour, self-tour. Oh, so cool. So that we did that. And so it was very neat. If you want to go to Hawaii, I recommend. If and when we go back, I think doing an Airbnb and cooking my own food would probably be what I'd want to do, but very, very expensive. You think New York is expensive if you're listening here in New York? Here's an example. Do you know what an acai bowl is? It's like this frozen fruit. Think of a smoothie, but it's harder, kind of like ice cream, but not really, but it's like a smoothie bowl. And you get fresh banana on it and great, blueberries and coconut, whatever. For two of them, regular sized, $40. Very expensive place. However, the coffee is amazing. Oh, and drinks. So I did not do the martini thing. Did I? No, one day I did. Instead, I thought, well, in Hawaii, one must drink a Hawaiian beverage. And I did a Mai Tai. I didn't know about the rum because I'm on the fence about rum. Hey, I'll try anything, but very good. Very good. All right. So that was basically the Hawaii thing. So we leave and we come back and no one told me. No one explained to me. Now, mind you, I woke up at 1:30 in the morning for my TV gig, right? I would be at work by 3-ish. And then I would be in bed. 6 o'clock was a good day, but let's be honest. I was in bed by 7-ish, not 8. That would have destroyed me. So I'm thinking, I got this. What? No. I did wake up at 1:30 in the morning, Hawaii time, which is 6 hours ahead of New York City. And it was funny. That was the day we went up to the mountain to see the sunrise, the volcano, national park. Halikala. And he turned to me and he said, "Is this bringing back memories?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And stayed up the whole day and even watched the sunset. That's right. So, but it was a different feeling that day because I wasn't having to rush and file a report or anything. But so we get back on a red eye. And again, I know I rag on Pilot for flying a red eye. I haven't done one for a really long time. So I thought, okay, red eye, I get it. But I did not add into the equation the time difference. So we get back to Astoria on Monday, land. We're, by the way, delayed 3 hours. And the funny thing was, while we were on this flight, one of our cousins was on it. He was just returning from his honeymoon. So we're delayed, a mechanical issue. So, of course, Pilot is getting all these texts from the cousin. Are we going to be okay? So it was funny. But yeah, it was something. I don't even remember what the issue was. But what was really neat for me to see was how Pilot wasn't thinking about the maintenance as much as he was thinking about the time. In terms of the pilot time, in terms of how long they're allowed to work, because there's a certain cutoff point. And he told me that we got out within 15 minutes before the pilots expired. The FAA is very strict. So 15 minutes. If not, we would have stayed in Maui or in Oahu an extra day, because we flew from JFK, Salt Lake, Oahu, Maui, and then back Maui, Oahu, and then Oahu all the way back to JFK. So, yeah. Wow. So it was neat. So, and then, of course, I told Pilot, I said, well, you should ask the pilots. Like, why don't you go up and talk to them? No. I don't know. I'm more into it than he is, I guess. But he did ask the flight attendant and she about the pilot time. And when she walked away, I said, well, do you think she knew you were a pilot? And he says, I don't care. I think his fun meter was running out at that point. But anyway, so we got back, landed, went to brunch at that point and stayed up. So I thought, okay, stayed up. Then it felt normal in my old life of early morning TV. Go to bed at like 7 p.m. Pilot stayed up till 9 because he was, trying to get himself back on his schedule. Next day, we were destroyed the rest of the week. And that's when I did a little post like, I'm alive, I'm here. Destroyed. I'm finally getting back. But geez. All right. Oh, we're almost at the halfway mark, or the half hour mark here. So yeah, so that's what what it was like. Oh, yeah. So now we're a week back, and we came back and it was overcast, and now it's overcast again today. But hopefully Wednesday, when you listen to this and beyond that, it will be sunny and happy. One thing I did want to bring up, and I thought was very interesting in my whole Hawaiian adventure, was the idea of time, right? And while I was there, I really allowed myself to release and just breathe deeper and take more time. And it was so great. And I started thinking about what you and me, how we spend our time. Isn't that a question, right? So my entire time, I would check in with myself in Hawaii. I would ground myself and I would think about how I'm spending my time, how I had spent my time, how I am spending my time, and how I plan to spend my time. And I don't know if it's because of all of this change that's going on in my life right now in terms of walking away from a career, which I still am grieving. I realized that on the trip, and not in a way of, oh man, I miss, being in front of the camera. I'm in front of a camera right now. I miss, the deadline. I have my own deadlines. I miss the camaraderie. I miss my people out in the field, especially on like big events. But I grieve what it has become, like what I signed up for, then how it's just not what I signed up for anymore. And there were two conversations I had in Hawaii, which I thought were stunning. One was this woman, Margaret, and we were actually at Pearl Harbor at the Aviation Museum, where someone was real excited to be. And I was too, but someone else was real excited. So as I'm sitting waiting for a bus and smelling jet fuel and old, airplane parts, this woman, Margaret, sitting next to me. Now, she's Japanese American, and we started talking about Pearl Harbor, because my big question to her was, how does she feel being of Japanese descent coming to Pearl Harbor? Because Pilot and I were talking about this. It's history. You need to learn all sides of it. So we started talking about that, and she was very open with me. And she then later said, I was surprised that you were so quick to ask me that. But now that I know that you're a journalist, because we talked about what I did, She goes, it made sense. I said, yeah. And, it was a conversation. She's like, people have to have conversations like this. And she said, and regarding your question, if we have to be okay talking about it. We have, there's no hard feelings. It was war, and we have to learn from war, because if we don't learn from war, we're going to repeat and repeat and repeat. So it was a very provocative conversation. And we ended up going on, there was a submarine that you could go into. I think it was the USS Michigan? Oh, pilot. Sorry, pilot. So we went in, and Margaret was with us and her brother. And it was just wonderful. And her brother, I asked the same question, and he gave me a bit of a different answer. And he was just like, I think, some of the Japanese people feel shame. But, we all move forward and move ahead. It was just such a good conversation. So the four of us, Pilot, Margaret, and his name, because what was it? Oh, geez. I don't remember, and I feel terrible. He was phenomenal, though. He called himself the nemesis of pilots because he was an FAA doctor. Anyway, so we ended up, the four of us would chat, and Margaret, well, we started talking about what I did as a journalist, and I consider myself still a journalist. I'm just not on TV doing it anymore. She said, yeah, and mind you, she's probably like 60s. She said, yeah, I just consider it like an echo chamber anymore. Wow. And that kind of hit me. Okay. I sat with that, and Pilot remembered, and Pilot was like, take note of how people are reacting to what you had done at one point in your life. Okay. So then I had another conversation with another person at the hotel we stayed at. And his name's Jeff from Philly. Oh, well, outside of Philly. I think, yeah, outside of, well, they live in the shore, at the Jersey Shore. Anyway, so we were talking about that, and he was asking what I did. And I said, and he kept on asking, are you retired? Not really. I mean, but he kind of also had and again, he's in his like 50s, like the demographic that listens and watches local news. And he too is kind of like rolled his eyes like, ooh. So I don't know. You start getting that, and you start thinking, for me, it's like the reassurance, like doing the right thing. So anyway, so all of that to be said about time. So I started thinking about those conversations and what I had done with my time, not regretting any. I don't look back, regret any of it. I'm not one of those people, I should have done this, I couldn't. No, absolutely not. I believe everything I've done had been written in the stars. It continues to be. So I started really spending time where I was at, right? Like spending time with Pilot, spending time on the beach with the sand between my toes, and spending time being present. Because a lot of the times my mind would be somewhere different. Mostly my feeling of unworthiness at my job and my career, where I'm at. Maybe I could do this, make it better for myself. So my big question to you listening or watching, how are you spending your time, and is it worth it? Now, if you're starting to question that, in a quiet moment, lean into it, because it might not be you have to have a humongous shift and pivot in your life. It could just simply be something as little as, maybe I need to rearrange my furniture. I'm not asking everybody to just up and quit their jobs or anything like that, but the time factor really makes you think, And then how do you want to spend your time? So that brought up another thing. Coffee break. Hang on a minute. I love coffee. I adore it. Mm. So how do you want to spend your time? And as you all know, I do the martinis with Medgie. Took a little break because obviously this is a huge thing. And then I also have been doing those daily weather briefs. And I started thinking about like, what am I getting out of the certain things I'm doing? Now, the podcast is like paramount, right? The weather briefing, I think we're done with that. Because that was an everyday thing but Saturday night. Imagine you are doing your thing, doing whatever you want to do in your day. And then you have to all of a sudden stop, look at weather models, and then record. Sometimes it's not the first, oftentimes it's not the first take. And then post it and all that stuff consistently and not get paid. Why did I do it for so long, for like 5 months? Because I wanted to keep myself, this was Pilot's idea, keep yourself in the mix online, so people see you and hear from you. So I think we're done with that because I started realizing, like, where am I going with my time on all this? And then I started thinking about the martinis, and I think, to still do them is a good thing. I just think I need to tweak them, but they take hours. So I don't know. I'm still like a little bit on the fence. And you start thinking, like, I've done it for 5 years, really, those martini videos. So you start thinking little things that you do. So you have then you have to prioritize, right? So think about that. Time. How are you spending your time? And where do you want to spend it more? Okay, we are now, it's 11:11. You know what that means? 11:11? That's like an angel number, a perfect place to stop. And I'm going to reach behind me, grab my book, You Are a Badass Every Day by Jen Sincero. And I like to always flip through. Now, sometimes there is a little bit of a story. If I stop on a little bit of a story, I will read it. If not, it'll just be a quote. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, it's a story. As it would be. And I'm not going to lie to you about this. This story, it's a quick thing. Was this morning what I flipped to. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does. Here we go. Again, this is You Are a Badass Every Day by Jen Sincero. These are her words. Choosing to hang out with people who light you up and lift you up is a requirement for badassery. Refusing to share your finite and precious time on Earth with toxic, cranky-ass energy suckers who don't bring anything to the party except perhaps a bucket of turds is also a requirement for badassery. If there's anyone in your life who's a negative force, make a decision right now to deny them access to you. I will also add, if there's anything doing this to you. Or as little access as possible. Now, if it's your job, If they sit next to you at work or live with you. Do not share your hopes and dreams with them. Be busy every time they want to hang out. Take forever to respond to their texts and emails and eventually stop responding at all. Phase them out of your life. If they don't take the hint, you're going to have to explain that you have moved on. Breaking up is never fun. But the good news is the conversation usually goes real quick. 2 minutes of pain for a lifetime of freedom. And I know it's never fun to hurt someone's feelings, no matter what the circumstances, but it's important to look at the breakup with someone toxic or something toxic as you being nice to yourself, not as you being mean to them. Putting on your grown-up pants and giving the heave-ho to toxic people or things not only beats the hell out of dragging around the dread of dealing with them, But if you're unhappy in the relationship, you'll be doing them a favor as well by letting them go. There you go, my friends. We'll see you next week. Bye. Or shall I say, aloha. Take what lands, leave what doesn't, and keep moving forward. Follow wherever you're listening, and if you are watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know.